Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Glad to know that you are still tuned in to Sook News Television. And of course, this is Early Exchange, where we shape policies and advance development. It's no longer news that the federal government, through the Nigeria Airspace Management Agency, has proposed a very significant increase in aviation fees and charges. And this has led to about 800% increase of those charges. Now, what will be the resultant effect it will have on the aviation sector? What impact will that have on flight operations across Nigeria? Of course, I still do have Sade with me, as usual, for company this morning. And indeed, we're going to be dissecting the sides, all the sides to it, impacts positive and negative, that this proposed increase will have on the aviation sector and the economy. Shade?
Yes, so there's been, comebacks, from airline owners saying that this cannot work. It is impossible to, just come up with an 800% increase in a sector that is struggling, actually. Though it doesn't start now, it starts in September 1st, 2024. But then we have a Comfort John Sunday, who is here to talk about, talk us through, why this has happened, how it would affect the economy, how it would affect, the aviation sector as well, and then on the pricing of air tickets.
Well, just before we get to Comfort, this new charges will see en route navigation fees rise from 2,000 naira to 18,000. Terminal navigation fees will go as high as 104,000 naira from 6,000 naira. And then fees extending service hours will jump to 450,000 naira from 50,000 naira. Some of these astronomical amounts, which I have just reeled out to you, is a worry for persons who are experts and persons who are part of the aviation sector. Just if you had monitored the news yesterday, you realized that some local flights or some airlines have grounded local flights where there are no heavy traffic of passengers, sticking to more commercial routes like Lagos, Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt, and that has had some form of detrimental effect on areas where we do not have major traffic of air passengers. Joining us now will be Comfort Sunday John, who is an aviation commentator, will be speaking on this issue. Glad you could join us this morning. Glad to have you on the program, Comfort. Comfort, if you can hear me, I'd like to get a confirmation because we would want to have that conversation now.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we want to ascertain what the specifics are, why there was an increase in the first place. What could be the reason the federal government, increased air traffic charge in the first place? 800%. I mean, before we start talking about by what measure, why was there an increase?
Oh, good morning once again. And the reason why there was this increase, according to the Naman MD, engineer Oman Farouk, it was just a high impartation that he just decided, because when you look at the economic situation of today, the navigation charges has not been increased since 2008 June. And he felt they were not gaining what they needed to gain in order to support the airspace corporation. So he just went ahead and proposed this high tariff of 800% without going to the stakeholders to hold a backlog meeting before coming out to talk about it. But we thank God for the prompt intervention of the aviation minister Festus Keyamo, who came in, who stepped in and said, no, it's not going to be that way. This would have taken effect from September 1st. And you know, he did this because as of 2008 till the present time, they were still charging 11,000 naira pay navigation charges. And it wasn't working for them. They were not able to do anything like trying to solve their major funds that are carried out in the Naman space. So he had to just go ahead because he was worried that today air tickets is about 150 to 200,000, but they were not increasing. It was still 11,000 navigation charges. So he saw it that it was not making waves for them. They were not making profits. If you listen to his conversation when he was interviewed, he said he was not running a charity organization, and therefore he needed these funds to be increased in order to meet up their expenditures. But he did that outside the corridors or having a meeting with the stakeholders. Thank you.
It is okay to have, you know, increments in the charges, you know. However, it is too high. The 800% that was raised by Umar Farouk is too high, and at a time, it's coming at a time where he didn't have meetings with stakeholders. You know, it seems like it's a sole decision just because he is the DG.
Yeah, that was why there was a swift intervention of the aviation ministers, trying to tell him, no, it shouldn't be that way.
Let me just take this from, you know, yes, that update, we wanted to get that confirmation. I'm glad that, you know, we have that update as regards Festus Keyamo, Minister of Aviation, stepping in to quell what seemed like a storm brewing in the aviation industry. But then there's apparently the obvious, which is the fact that the agency namer requires funds, and the only way that it can do this is to actually get funds from within the sector. The federal government is trying to mop up cash, trying to raise to increase internally generated revenue from, you know, every sector, and it behooves on the persons who are driving these parastatals to actually, you know, look for ways they can increase, you know, funds or revenues in their various parastatals. But what I want to get from you, I would like to glean from you, is the fact that 800% is astronomical. But the last time the increase was, we ever had an increase, was in 2008, like you rightly said. What would be apt? What increase would be sufficient or would be considerable enough to say, oh, from 2,000, maybe 4,000, you know, considering the fact that prices are skyrocketing, aviation fuel and all that is also on the increase as well?
It's really the 800% is really outrageous because it's really going to affect the masses. Namen have various ways which they can raise funds. They have various ways. Now we see Namen as being a destination manager. They can go through various ways to raise funds in order to be able to crop their expenses to solve the problems they have. What do I mean by various ways? They can open up their airspace. They are the destination management. They can open up their airspace to Naman Transports. They can do Naman Hotel Limited. There are various ways. You don't stay in one way to make money. You open up your tentacles. You drop your strength from other places in order to be able to solve your immediate problem. Skyrocketing that kind of percentage is affecting the aviation industry as a whole, even to the masses, because people will no longer want to fly. They might want to use the road routes, which we understand that the road is not convenient for everybody. The insecurity is not is not in a proper condition that can make people to start going by road. So it's really going to be a problem. NAMAN have various ways that they can raise money, not until they increase the 800%, which is too outrageous. Thank you.
All right, Comfort. Basically, just feels as though airline operators are the persons who are going to bear the brunt of this. I don't know if it's something you agree, but you've also mentioned the fact that people, the common masses, but then how many persons actually even fly? As it were now, Lagos to Port Harcourt, Lagos to Owerri, how many persons can afford to go by that route? Going by road, you realize the cost of bus transportation, Shadi, if I had to bring you in, about 25 or 30,000, 32,000. Then flying, it's almost 2 times that amount.
250, 300,000.
And you probably even have to book well ahead of time. So how many persons are benefiting? Because you get on a flight from Lagos to Owerri and you realize the flight is not even filled up, or the plane is not even filled up. On some days, on those routes. And so we've also noticed that certain routes now have more attention. Some airlines have grounded some of their flights. If I had to, mention names, Dana, for example, grounded some flights and some routes.
Eric.
And then there's more concentration to Lagos, Port Harcourt, Lagos, Abuja. So, yes, the common man will bear the brunt. But I feel it's the persons who are in the aviation sector who are going to bear the brunt. But for all you know, persons who can't even afford the flight have been plying the road for a long time. So, Comfort, if I had to bring you into this, what is the current state of the aviation sector? Is the aviation sector even witnessing a considerable amount of patronage at the moment? Are people traveling by air?
It's really really sad at the moment, because the common man is no longer patronizing, like you said, the way it should. Because I remember in 2016 when I had to travel, I used Dana to travel. I remember paying my flight ticket then at 12,000 naira, 2016 to 2024. And then you're seeing from 16,000 naira to 200,000, 250,000. That's way, way, way too bad. And now if you see a family who normally will want to travel from Lagos to Abuja or from Lagos to Owerri, they will want to go by road. It's affecting both the aviation industry and at the same time the masses. The masses are no longer patronizing. It's just the few, in quotes, the rich elites. They are the one patronizing the aviation industry now.
Well, sad time for us. And of course, the impact this has had on the common man. I know a family who were in Lagos just, over the weekend, and they had to hire a Sienna bus to actually move everyone, because the cost of moving a family of 5
by air, you're looking at 3 million naira.
You can beat that. And with the current situation of things, you realize that if it's not important for you, you wouldn't even want to go. But then let's bring it back to the conversation of the 800% proposed increase. NEMA wants to shore up revenue. What do they need these funds for? Comfort.
According to them, they feel, yes, I can. According to engineer Umar Farouk, he made a statement saying, we go to the same market to procure equipment, fuel, diesel. Why are we on the course of having to be the one getting a lower price of 11,000 naira, charging the same price since 16 years ago till today? Why the aviation ticketing is about 100 to 250,000, and yet they are still charging? That they needed, it's not as if wishes were horses that he could not have achieved what he needed to, but it would have been proper if he had gone to have a closed door meeting with stakeholders. It's not as if this might not going to take place. it might take place, but it will be later in the future. They need these funds to crop expenses, according to him, that had already been on ground. So these expenses need to be paid off. Staff salaries, managers, every other thing that they needed to. So that's why they need these funds. That was why he went ahead to make the increment of about 800%, which is so much.
Well, I'd want us to do a comparison as to what air navigation fees in Nigeria side by side with other African countries. Well, for North Africa, the countries of the North Africa region, Algeria, Egypt, Libya, Morocco, these three countries adopted a formula to calculate en route charges, and quite a formula. So it varies per country. But then, if you had to put it side by side, do we have higher aviation fees in Nigeria as compared to, some other countries where you also have high or heavy traffic of air travel?
We do. We do.
Do you have those figures or you don't?
I don't have the figure, but I believe we do.
Comfort, if you might just backtrack a little bit, I didn't get that clearly.
Okay, are you hearing me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. When you're talking about other three countries which you have just mentioned, I don't have the figures, but I believe from 2008 till now that we're still operating on the navigation charge of 11,000. I believe Nigeria is on the fair charges, if I may say, but I don't have the figures here.
Okay. Maybe we'll just move away from that because it wouldn't make a lot of sense that we're having a conversation when we cannot put the right figures
Yeah.
to it, and that wouldn't be the best way to go. But then, are there any exemptions or reductions in fees for certain types of flights? Are there any exemptions to that?
There are no exemptions, Sam. There are no exemptions.
I feel the brunt, since it's going to be borne on airlines, they would also be expecting government to do something about it. If you take a look at what happened in the oil sector with Dangote, and of course, in the cry for help, and the eventual
Intervention.
by the president
Yes.
asking, giving like an instruction by from to the NMPC to provide crude oil
Yes.
directly or locally to Dangote. I don't know if Comfort will be hoping that the federal government would provide some sort of intervention for
the airline operators or the aviation sector.
At this point in time. Is this something that you would suggest?
Yes, the federal government, because when Engineer Farah Kuman was talking about this increase, I believe the federal government should step into the concern of aviation industry to be able to help them take consideration to the backlogs of debts that are being owed. If the federal government stepped in, I believe there would be a change. That's my submission.
Shadi, when was the last time you flew?
Probably like say last year.
Outside Nigeria or within Nigeria?
Within Nigeria.
Last year.
Yes.
So
and I think my fee was 300. We're a family of 4, so it was like 1.1 million at the time with taxes and all of that.
Well, what an astronomical increase as compared to what used to be just
So what she
5
paid in
years
2016, ago. She paid 16,000 within Nigeria
Yeah.
for the flight fee. So
I remember when Owerri to Lagos was about 20, 29,
I've never been to Owerri.
Anyway, well, Comfort, do you ever foresee a time when air tickets might go back? I know that there's some sites that you say you pay ahead of time and you get a certain deduction, a percentage reduction, some sort. But then, do you see or envisage a time when air tickets will go back to what it used to be or even reduce? Or are we expecting that there's going to always be an upward increase in the cost of air ticket?
When the economic situation of Nigeria is stable, the air tickets, I believe and I foresee, will come back to normal. If we will be able to buy a paint rubber of Gary for 600 to 800 naira we used to buy before, I believe we can still buy air tickets for 16,000 to 22,000 naira. I believe in Nigeria. I believe in my country. And I believe a better change for tomorrow.
Well, what a way to wrap up that particular. Sounds like a quote or speech from Martin Luther King. But before I completely let you go, is the cost of air tickets also very high in other African countries? I wonder if you are aware, because I know with what Alan Oyema did, he actually dropped the cost of traveling from Lagos to London, and that obviously impacted the choice of, airlines, choice of airline for people. Now, if you put what's going on in Nigeria side by side with what's going on in other countries, I mentioned something. There are some sites that give you certain percentage discount. Some sites even slash as much as 50%. Do we have some of those things in the offing in Nigeria? I may go forward to say I hardly think so. But then if we put that side by side with other African countries, would you say that we are nestling? Are we on a cruise, or are we better off than them?
Only to the fact that when you look at the dollar exchange rates with Naira today, you realize that we pay more and higher compared to other countries. Now, when the Airpeace MD made a good slice of the air ticket, it gave the masses the privilege to be able to choose or take a choice of how to, fly. So, except the dollar rate reduces, we'll be able to pay less compared to what we are paying, even within Nigeria to other states. 200 to 250. When the dollar rate reduces, we have what we used to have before, like 113 naira or 130 naira to $1. Then we see a better Nigeria. So what we're having now is, it's not well at the moment. We are paying more compared to other, but there are airlines that, for example, if maybe I'm trying to fly Airpeace or probably Valjet, they give their varies of air tickets. At times, if you book early, you might see one that is about 152. You go to Ibom Air, you get the one that is 200. It varies. But I'm still saying it is still on the high side. If there is a drop on dollars, there will be a better air ticketing. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Comfort Sunday John, for having time to have a conversation with us this morning on Air Exchange. And we'll put our fingers crossed, hope for the better, keeping faith with yours that the dollar would come down. But then, that these things is not magic. It's not it's not something that you can wish away.
It's going to take time. It's going to take time, yeah.
Happen for us to get to that particular stage. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.